This is The Thing About Jellyfish by Ellie Benjamin. And this chapter is called Dr. Legs. Mom and I sat in the car in the parking lot of the First Street Schoolhouse building, which, for the record, is actually on Garris Street, and it isn't a school at all. It's a bunch of offices, one of which happens to belong to Dr. M. Ledger, child psychologist. Through the windshield, I saw my dad waiting for us to get out of the car. Zoo, my mom said, please don't make us any later than we already are. I folded my arms across my chest. Otherwise, I stayed exactly still. Listen, Zoo, the fact that we're here doesn't mean we think something's wrong with you. You think I'm cray-cray. That's why we're here. As if she could hear my thoughts, Mom added, I know you're sad, Zoo, but I'm also sure you're going to be okay. But your dad and I... She sighed and looked at him, held up her index finger as if to say, just a moment. He nodded and waved. We want to make sure we're doing everything we can to help you. She sighed again. Other than giving you time, this is the only thing we could think to do. When I didn't say anything, she added, I know you don't want to be here, Sue, but I'm going to ask you to get out of the car anyway. I frowned. I opened the car door. Hey, kiddo, Dad greeted me. How are you? His voice was all friendly, as if we weren't in the parking lot because of my cracks and flaws, as if he didn't call my mom to talk about my not talking all the time. Mom always pretended she was getting a work call, but I could hear her saying things like, I don't know, Jim. No, I have no earthly idea why. I swear, yes, I'm trying, of course. I have told her that. My dad wrapped his arms around me and pulled me toward him in a half hug, as if I might just answer, Great, Dad, I'm doing great. We walked through the door and up to the suite 307, which is the one with Dr. M. Legler's name on it. The doctor I could talk to was different than I expected. For one thing, Dr. M. Legler was a woman. For another, she had jet black hair, straight like a vampire's. Her legs stretched long and thin beneath her short skirt, and she wore lacy black tights, which I, frankly, didn't think was very professional. Dr. Legs, I thought. I frowned. She led us into an office with a thick carpet and leather chairs and gestured for us to sit. The chair squeaked as I settled into it. Dr. Legs looked directly at me. Your parents called Suzanne because they're worried about you. I looked away toward the window, even though all I could see was a different window, shade drawn, surrounded by a brick wall. They tell me you're pretty quiet these days. Is that right? I folded my arms, my eyes still on the window. If she knew that, why in the world would she think I would answer her question? For that matter, why was she asking a question she clearly already had the answer to? And they say you stopped talking soon after the loss of your friend. Is that right? Not my friend, I thought. Not when it happened, anyway. Well, I want you to know, she continued, as if I'd answered her, everybody grieves in different ways. There's not a right way or a wrong way to grieve for someone you loved. I looked at her bookshelf. It was filled with books that had titles like The Miracle of Mindfulness, Victims, No Longer, Overcoming Depression One Step at a Time, No More Bedwetting. Dr. Lake spoke. I imagined rearranging the words in the titles. No More Time, One Step Depression, Victims of Bedwetting Miracle. Meg, Dr. Legs turned to my mom. How does Suzanne's refusal to talk affect you? Sometimes my mother's tears are sad tears. Sometimes they're happy tears. And sometimes they're what she calls love tears. But I can't always tell the difference between them. I watch her eyes fill, and I thought, these are probably the sad kind. Susie just seems so unhappy, her mom said. Her voice was quieter and heavier than I wanted it to be. It seemed mean to ask my mom to talk about something that made her cry. Frankly, I didn't much care for Dr. Lake's character. When my mom was done explaining how she just really wanted to be let in, Dr. Legs turned to my dad. Tell me, Jim, she said, how often do you see Suzanne? Every week, he said, every Saturday night. And you stick to that routine? Always. It was true. Every Saturday, without fail, Dad and I went to Palace, a Chinese restaurant wedged between Planet Fitness and the Price Chopper supermarket out on Route 24. It was a promise Dad had made when he moved out, that no matter how much he had to travel the rest of the week, he would be there on Saturday at 6 p.m. every single week. Do you see the same thing as Meg? Dr. Legs asked. Do you think Suzanne is unhappy? What do you think? He snapped. He frowned and took a deep breath. I'm sorry, but I mean, of course she's unhappy. That's why we're here. He looked at the floor. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet. Maybe I could deal with this silence better if we still lived together, he said. But I'm not at the house to tell her good night. And I'm not there when she's getting ready for school in the morning. And I'm not there when she does her homework. I travel all the time, and I spend all week looking forward to weekends. But now she doesn't even talk to me. And it's like I've got nothing at all. Like she's just gone. Sometimes when I don't like what is happening, I make lists of things in my head. I decided right then to make a list of the most interesting things I could remember seeing online. I once saw pictures of two blonde girls laughing and making faces at each other, and it all looked very friendly and usual, except that their two necks seemed out of a single body, stemmed out of a single body. I once saw a man with devil horns surgically implanted in his head and tattoos all over his face. I didn't especially enjoy seeing that. I once saw a polar bear that had starved to death. The bear had needed ice to find food, but all the ice had melted. The bear was skin and bones like a lumpy white rug lying on green grass with one paw lifted up in a kind of salute. I hated seeing that. Suzanne, Dr. Legs was saying, I'm going to ask you to try to trust me. You can say anything here, anything at all. I won't judge. I nodded because it seemed like that was what the situation called for. But by then I had stopped listening. All I really wanted to do was get back to a computer and start looking up everything I could find about jellyfish. I wasn't sure how a person even begins to go about testing a hypothesis like the one I'd formed, and I knew I didn't have any time to waste. Dr. Legs finished whatever she was saying with the words, and that's why we sometimes need the help of a professional. I looked up. I wasn't sure what exactly she had been saying, but the word professional seemed important. You see, professionals are trained to recognize patterns, she continued, both good patterns and the patterns that a person might want to change. Professionals are trained to help people figure out things they struggle to understand on their own. Right then, an idea dawned on me. I mean, Dr. Legs continued, a 12-year-old can't be expected to solve every problem herself, can she? She was absolutely right. I did need a professional. Not for the not talking, of course, but to help me with my hypothesis. There had to be jellyfish experts out there, people who knew about migration patterns or stings or other things I wouldn't even think to wonder about on my own. Jellyologist, I thought. I need a jellyologist. I was going to find some, and one of them was going to help me prove the thing I needed to prove, that Franny had been stung by a jellyfish. If any part of me questioned this mission right then, if any part of me thought, this is a crazy notion, it is filled with cracks and flaws, I pushed it out of my brain immediately. The thing is, a person gets so few chances to really fix something, to make it right. When one of those opportunities comes along, you can't overthink it. You got to grab hold of it and cling to it with all your might, no matter how cray-cray it might seem. Outside in the parking lot, Dad gave me a hug. See you on Saturday, he said. He had picked up a brochure in the office, Children in Grief, Big Issues for Little Hearts. Same time, same place. Then he kissed me on the top of my head. He got into his car, and my mom and I got into her car, and everybody drove away from the First Street Schoolhouse building. For now.